Hello guys, my name is Victor and I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Breath of Hope podcast. Today we will be discussing about how to heal from a heartbreak. So let's say you've been served breakfast some days ago, some weeks ago, some hours ago, some minutes ago. I'm going to be guiding you on your journey to heal. It's very important to understand that the hurt, the pain you feel from a heartbreak is typically normal, right? And you should not be frustrated or angry or impatient with yourself with the pain that you're feeling. Especially if the pain has lingered on for a while, you tend to have this feeling of discomfort or anger with yourself or impatience, basically because you're still feeling the way you're feeling right here. I want to understand that it's completely normal. And the reason why it is because a person that you once shared a life with, or a person that you once shared certain things exclusively with in an intimate manner, decides to walk away from you, especially in a situation where you had little or no say in. It's almost like, but not necessarily, but it can be likened to losing a loved one in the sense that you didn't really have any say in the person just walking out of your life, right? The person just left, and then you have a whole reality of having to deal with the person's absence, the value the person brought to your life, and all of those beautiful memories that you once shared, right? So only expected that it hurts, right? And two major feelings that you most likely experience. Number one is a lack of worth, or a question for your worth. I mean, am I really that valuable? Am I lovable? Because if you were really into this person and the person decided that you weren't worth being with, right? I mean, it's a question of value to you, right? Because if something is valuable, you would expect that the person would want to hang in there just a little while longer, right? And so you would have to question your value sometimes, even though you're a very confident person. Some days, you would feel so low that you'd question if you're worth it, if you're worth going through, the whole stress for, right? And secondly, another common feeling that you most likely experience is some sort of numbness or some sort of general disinterest, in certain things, right? So certain things that excited you before, you don't really feel excited by those things. You just want to be by yourself. You just want to lay your bed and cry and shut out from the world, right? And it's very expected because the thing that made you feel very happy, very alive, the thing that brought you joy, is no longer there, right? And so you have to find a way to rebalance yourself, to find something else to bring you that sense of peace, joy, and happiness, right? And so these things are very normal, right? Just be patient with yourself. And I will take the next couple of minutes to explain the processes or the steps through which you can take in order for you to heal. Number one, get closure. Now, why is closure important? Well, closure deals with the why. Why? I mean, why are you breaking up with me? Did I do something wrong? Right? I think that the worst thing a person can do is to ghost you as a breakup. I think it's the worst thing a person can do. First of all, you have different feelings, right? You have the feeling of anger with the person for ghosting you. You have the feeling of confusion as to why they ghosted you. What could you have done wrong? And then you begin to question every little thing that you did. It's a very wicked state to put a person in, right? In the sense that you leave somebody that confused, that angry, and all of those things, right? It helps you basically pinpoint the reason, right? So rather than taking your mind everywhere, mixed up with the different effects that you see have from, a breakup or a heartbreak, it kind of isolates and pinpoints the exact reason why something happened the way it did, right? And even tries to provide some sort of hope in the sense that, okay, so let's say I broke up with you because of XYZ. I feel like in my next relationship, I wouldn't want to express XYZ. Maybe I have things I need to work on, right? And things like that. So closure is very important, right? It helps you pinpoint the exact issue, helps you understand why. It gives you some level of peace in the sense that you're not as confused as to why the person left you. So get closure if you can. Now, in a case whereby you cannot get closure, understand this: a person who cannot give you the grace of mercy to explain why he or she has decided to break up with you is probably somebody that doesn't deserve to be with you. I do think from a personal point of view that if the person was actually a good person, the person who should have given you the privilege of closure, and if a person doesn't have that grace to extend the privilege of closure to you, then I think that it's probably somebody that isn't worth being in your life. The next point, you need to learn to process how you feel, not bury how you feel. I watched a movie once, right? And this movie tried to depict things very accurately from a psychological point of view, right? But I watched a movie whereby someone lost, his mother, and rather than grieve her, he decided to distract himself with a couple of things. While everyone else was grieving in the family, he would try to party, he would try to distract himself basically, so that he didn't get to feel anything, right? Try to get high, all of those things, right? And I think there are 5 stages of grief. There's denial. I don't think that stage acceptance or something like maybe 4th stage. But there's actually a process in those 5 stages that requires you to actually mourn, right? And so the person did not process those feelings. So after a while, it now got to a point whereby every other thing that he was doing was not now sufficient to serve as an escape from the actual way he was feeling, right? And eventually, while everybody were almost done processing their grief, that's when he started to process his own, right? And so, it's very important for you to process how you feel. The point here, the key takeaway here is that processing how you feel sometimes a necessary step in moving on, right? Don't hide away from how you feel. Process how you feel. This is how it works. When you don't process how you feel, when you try to bury it, by exchanging it for one activity or the other. And so when you don't process these feelings, what is actually happening is that you're basically trying to, find a way to get your feel or your high or, whatever from something else or from different activities. What's actually happening is that you are not dealing with these feelings. So they are not necessarily going away. You are basically burying them, right? And the thing about burying things sometimes is that you think that they are gone until someone digs it back up, right? So you might feel like, okay, maybe this is actually working, I'm actually moving on. And then that person walks back into your life after a couple of months or years, right? And you realize that the person still has a certain level of influence or hold over you. Sometimes you must process these feelings. Don't hate these feelings so much that you try to run away from them and distract yourself with other activity. It is necessary that in order to rise from pain, you must go through the fire. Sometimes, in order to rise from pain, you must go through the fire. And so, don't be scared of processing how you feel, of, actually being patient with yourself. Understand that these feelings are necessary towards your healing process. So now you've identified how you feel, right? And sometimes in identifying how you feel, you realize that, okay, part of these feelings, sometimes it might be as a result of guilt. Okay, why do I feel guilty? Okay, maybe because I did X, Y, Z. Let's say maybe I cheated on him, for instance, right? And he broke up with me as a result, right? I feel very guilty for what I did. If I didn't do this, then, this would not have happened. Or let's say, for instance, he is the one who cheated on me, for instance, right? And so I hate him. I'm so angry with him, and I hold this level of unforgiveness, right? I can't let how I feel about what he did go, right? You would still have to learn how to deal with these feelings, right? Because, so for instance now, sometimes it could happen that, different things can happen and you just find yourself letting go. But some other times you would have to intentionally, walk towards letting go, right? So for instance now, you feel really guilty. And because you feel really guilty, it is preventing you from moving on. And yes, you made a mistake that you should not have, but you'd realize that sometimes you just have to learn to let go. You just have to, take it instead as a lesson, a painful lesson, which you might not have wanted to learn. But, you've made the mistake already. So for instance, you did something you should not have done. And let's say the guy in question has moved on, right? Guess what? He's going to move on with his life, get somebody else, right? And, get serious with the person, right? You're now the one that is still holding yourself out of guilt. Don't punish yourself twice for something that you have done. Let me explain. So, imagine that you killed somebody, right? And then the court sentenced you to die by murder. And then the court sentenced you again to die by firing squad. What that means is that they're giving you 2 different punishments, right? Which doesn't make any sense. So, you have already paid the punishment by losing the person if you cheated, that you cheated on. Okay? Or that you've already paid the punishment by losing the person because you need X, Y, Z. Don't now punish yourself again by putting yourself in guilt. I understand that it is a natural human response, emotion, but you must catch it and tell yourself, I have already paid for the punishment. And if it's a case of whereby, the person hurts you and you can't seem to forgive the person, understand this, that when you don't forgive somebody, right, you are not doing the person a favor, or rather, you're not trying to have one over the person. What you're actually doing is that you are putting the person in memory. You're allowing the person's action have, such an influence over you that it is easy to control your emotion. It is easy to have a hold on you. It is going to affect your next relationship. And so you must learn to process forgiveness, right? Not for the person's benefit, but for your own sake. Okay? So you have to understand the different ways you feel that is preventing you or that is slowing you down from healing. Identify these feelings, find creative ways to let go of these negative emotions. Okay? A lot of times, one common, effect of suffering from a heartbreak, not every time, but one common effect is that you suffer a bit of self-esteem. Now, it's worse if, or in a normal day, you struggle with self-esteem, you struggle with self-confidence, you struggle with this feeling of self-worth. If you are a very confident person, you might have some low days, but you generally try to pick yourself back up because you have built some sort of resistance, right? But for a person who would naturally struggle, what will happen is that you would have a lot of days whereby you question your self-worth, you question your esteem, because what's happening is that you're focusing on the one event, right, or on the one person that rejected you. You're missing out on the 99 other people that love and accept you. So for example, let's say that you come from a family whereby they love you and they accept you, right? They love you, they accept you for who you are. That's proof that you are valuable. That's proof that you are worthy. That's proof that you have value, basically. You have friends who are willing to go all out for you. You have a couple of people who are trying to date you, right? It's proof that you have value. And so don't limit your value and worth to the decision of a person's personal bias or something. So for instance, now I say I don't like to eat meat. It doesn't necessarily mean that meat is useless. It just means that meat is not for me. And so you must learn to disassociate your value from the person who decided to break up with you or reject you, right? Focus more on every other person that thinks that you are valuable. Stay on it, and then you would realize that, okay, maybe I do have value. There are a lot of other people that desire me in their life. There are a lot of other people that would wish I was, their partner, right? So maybe some other people actually do see value in me. They should be valuing me, right? And so keep your eyes on that. Another thing that, helps in healing is that you should don't stalk the person. Like, stop going to social media to check what the person is doing or what she's doing. Stop going to their when they click on their story and they see last video, see your name there. Stop it. If it helps you to block the person for your own sanity, it is not childish. It is you must learn to prioritize yourself. So it's not childish if you have to block the person for your sanity, for your peace, right? Block the person, please, right? But stop stalking the person, because the way the human mind works is that out of mind is out of sight, right? And so when you keep on going to check the person out, when you keep on going to say, okay, what's this person doing? Where was he last seen and things like that, you're refreshing everything. So every memory that is supposed to be buried, every feeling, every emotion that you feel, you're renewing that emotion to a certain level, right? To a certain extent. So you must learn to let go. Stop, following the person up. Focus rather on getting your wins. Focus rather on, improving yourself. There is nothing as miserable as a partner who can't just, or as an ex who can't just seem to let go. In fact, you notice that when, someone breaks up with you, and you just can't seem to let go of the person, and you shoves in the person's face, you become less desirable and sometimes even irritating to the person, right? So try to ensure that you limit communication as much as possible. Focus on your winning in life. And there's nothing that makes an ex as attractive as, winning in life. So let's say you break up with a person, the person then, so let's say you break up with the person, and then you realize that this person is doing well ever since he left me. That person begins to become very attractive in your eyes. You want to see the person more. You're like, maybe there's something about this person that I did not see that I'm even seeing now. Do you understand? And so just focus on your wins. Stop stalking that ex. Stop checking them out on social media. Stop trying to find out what they're up to. Just focus on yourself. Focus on winning. Focus on bettering yourself, and focus on becoming a better version of yourself. Now, another thing that helps is, you know how everybody is perfect and imperfect, and everyone has a good side and a bad side. And so, in the moments whereby somebody has broken up with you, what is magnified in your mind? Again, focus. Focus creates blindness. So what is magnified in your mind is how good the person was, the person's good side. But you have forgotten that when you and this person were dating, you guys were probably fighting like 75% of the time, right? Sometimes, right? What are some of the bad traits that the person had, right? Write everything down. What are some of, not bad traits, what are some of the reasons why the person was not good enough for you? Write down some of write down some of those reasons, right? And magnify those reasons more in your mind, right? And so sometimes what will now happen is that your mind now begins to, the mind is a tricky tool. Sometimes your mind now begins to convince that maybe it was for the best, right? Because you realize a person had this very big, issue that would have was already causing a dent in your relationship, right? And so over time, your mind now begin to say, maybe this wasn't even for the best. Have you ever had that ex? Now, when they broke up with you, you now began to, you were very angry with yourself, you were very sad, you were feeling all sorts of emotions, you were so heartbroken. But over time, after some years, when you remember some of his bad habits or her bad habit, you now be like, thank God I never end up with that person. That's what you're doing. You're writing down a list of all the possible reasons why you thought they were not good enough for you, right? Identify some of those bad traits that were really bad, that you really hated, right? And if it helps, a person who breaks up with you is a person who most likely thinks that you are not worth having. And it also helps to think about it this way. I don't want to be with a person who thinks I'm not worth having. Let's go of the hope that this person, might come back someday. Just let go of that hope. Think about it like he might never come back. Rechannel your mind into finding something that brings you joy. Now, for some people, religion brings them joy. For some other people, going to the gym, keeping healthy is what will bring them joy. I know a lot of people who got heartbroken have found joy in religion. I took religion, spirituality more seriously, right? I also know somebody who was in a very serious relationship that was supposed to head to marriage, right? And then something happened, and she was heartbroken. She was very depressed, probably even considered suicide, right? But she was really depressed. And then she started hitting the gym. It was like the pain she felt from the heartbreak, she converted it into the gym, getting some gains and things like that, right? And the way she embraced the gym, you could feel like she now derived joy, some sort of joy. It was now some sort of coping mechanism that now helped her through it, right? So find your coping mechanism. Your coping mechanism isn't necessarily to distract you from the pain. You're going to process the pain, but your coping mechanism is to help you find something else that you can use to derive joy from. Right now, your coping mechanism should not be a rebound, because what happens is that most times you don't really love the next person that you're moving to. You're just using the person as a tool to get over the other person, and then you're repeating a cycle of heartbreak. Because guess what? If you're using the person as a tool to get over the other person, it means that you don't really love that person. If you don't really love that person, you most likely also break the other person's heart. Right now, I mean more things more like activities that bring you joy. Or let's say a newfound religion, say, you found Christ, you decided to take Christ seriously and things like that, right? So find your thing, explore new things, and find, what brings you joy. Have friends that create an environment whereby you can come and whine to them. You can come and cry, wail, and do all of those things, right? Have friends that encourage you. Have friends that are open to you sharing your struggles, right? And this is very important, because there are days whereby you will feel very down, and there's no principle in this world that is going to help. In those days, you need a very good support community. You need people who can help you speak out, or you need people who can listen to you as you speak out, right? So always have that support, community. Always have those friends, those family members through which you can reach out to, and you can always pour out your heart, right? And I hope that these tips help. Please, if you have any other tip, you could just add it to the comment section, and I'll be sure to respond. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd love to see you next week. Have a lovely day. Bye.